Bear locks itself inside family SUV, forcing dramatic window-smashing rescue in Tennessee. A family in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, found themselves facing an extraordinary wildlife encounter after discovering that a large black bear had climbed into their SUV, become trapped inside, and started helping itself to snacks. Now let's take a deeper look and uncover every layer of this story on our AI podcast.
Imagine walking out to your driveway, noticing your car door is just a little bit ajar.
Right.
And you just bump it shut with your hip, without really looking. And then you realize you've just locked a 300-pound black bear inside your family SUV.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So today on the Deep Dive, we're looking at a stack of incident reports, wildlife data, and this wild video breakdown from Gatlinburg, Tennessee.
It's a crazy one.
It really is. Our mission today, we're going to figure out how everyday human conveniences, like a parked car and some leftover snacks, how they can instantly become a deadly psychological and thermal trap for an apex predator.
Yeah, and it really is this perfect collision between human habits and just raw biological instinct.
Definitely.
Because we design our world for ease, right? We want things to be convenient, and we rarely consider how wildlife interprets that design until things go terribly wrong.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the setup here feels like something straight out of sitcom.
Oh, absolutely.
Right up until the moment it becomes completely terrifying. So we have this family on vacation in Gatlinburg.
Beautiful area, yeah.
Gorgeous. And they're hanging out, probably exhausted from a full day of hiking, and they look out at the driveway and notice their SUV door is left just slightly open.
Which, that happens to all of us. You're unpacking the trunk, you're grabbing bags, corralling kids.
Exactly.
Someone bumps the door, and the latch just doesn't fully catch.
Right. If you're listening to this on a road trip right now, think about how many times you've blindly bumped your car door shut without a second thought.
Muscle memory.
It's a pure muscle memory.
Yeah.
So one of the brothers in this family does exactly that. He walks out to the driveway, pushes the door firmly, and hears it click shut.
Thinking he's just securing their rental car for the night.
Yeah. I liken it to blindly shutting the refrigerator door as you walk out of the kitchen. You don't inspect the shelves, you just push it closed.
Right, but in this case, instead of boxing in some leftover takeout, he's just sealed in a massive wild animal.
Right. Seconds after he shuts the door, he hears this muffled, strange noise coming from inside the vehicle.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so he leans in, cups his hands to look through the tinted glass, and there was a massive black bear.
Just sitting there.
Just sitting in the back seat, completely going to town on some leftover snacks they'd stored in the car.
Wow.
And here's the absolute kicker. The car keys are locked inside the SUV with the bear.
It's just this incredible bit of situational irony, Human instinct is deeply hardwired to create safe, enclosed shelters.
Sure.
We secure our belongings by shutting doors and locking things up. But in this specific scenario, that exact safety reflex instantly escalated a minor nuisance.
Like a bear swiping some PETA.
Exactly, a bear eating snacks. It escalated that into a high-stakes emergency.
Because now you don't just have a bear hanging around your driveway. You have a bear trapped inside a highly reinforced metal box.
Right.
And you have absolutely no way to open the box.
Which is terrifying.
Now, knowing the bear is trapped, they obviously want to get it out without anyone getting mauled.
Ideally.
And ideally, without destroying a very expensive vehicle.
Yeah.
So the video shows one of the family members actually trying to use a wire hanger.
A wire hanger.
Yes, to fish down through the window seals, trying to hit the unlock button or, hook the manual lock.
It's a very human, logical response to a locked car door. If you lock your keys in the car, you call a tow truck or you grab a hanger.
Right.
But treating this like a mechanical problem, it completely ignores the biological reality of the occupant inside the vehicle.
I really have to question the logic of that moment. Trying to jimmy a car lock with a hanger is incredibly frustrating on a sunny, calm afternoon.
Oh, it takes forever.
But doing it while a massive wild animal is inside, it's like fumbling with tiny, delicate keys while someone is actively panicking inside a stuck elevator.
Yeah.
Did this well-meaning delay, this attempt to save a piece of glass, did it actually make the bear more dangerous?
Well, what's fascinating here is the rapid shift in the bear psychology during that delay.
Okay.
When the bear first got into the car, its nervous system was in a parasympathetic state. It was calm, it was resting, it was eating.
Just having a snack.
But as the hanger rescue drags on, the bear realizes its spatial reality has changed.
Mm-hmm.
It realizes it can't leave. And the transition from casual foraging to sheer claustrophobic panic, it happens in a matter of seconds.
Wow. And the incident reports note that the bear starts violently biting the leather seats.
Right.
It's actively tearing apart the interior of the vehicle, just ripping at the door panels in this desperate bid to escape.
So let's break down what's happening chemically there.
Please.
When an animal's flight path is blocked, the sympathetic nervous system takes over entirely. Cortisol and adrenaline just flood the bloodstream.
So it's full fight or flight.
Full fight or flight, the heart rate spikes. Every single physical action becomes solely about breaking that barrier. And this destruction, it isn't malicious, the bear isn't angry at the family, and it isn't trying to punish the SUV. To a panicked bear, those seats, that dashboard, those door panels...
They're just in the way.
Exactly. They're just physical obstacles preventing survival.
Which means the longer they stood out there, fiddling with the wire hanger, the more agitated the bear got.
Yes.
And the more the interior of that SUV was getting absolutely shredded into confetti.
A slow, methodical rescue might be viable for a set of keys. It is a terrible strategy for a wild animal whose heart rate is tripling by the minute.
So the escalating destruction inside forces the family's hand.
They have to act.
Right. They realize they are way past the point of saving the upholstery. Drastic action is required right now.
Right.
One of the family members finally abandons the wire hanger, grabs a heavy wooden log from a firewood pile, walks up to the rear of the SUV, and just smashes the back window.
Which is smart because they're finally doing what the bear wants.
Right.
They're creating an immediate large-scale escape route.
And the climax of the video is wild. The glass shatters, and almost instantly the bear climbs out of that broken window.
Yeah.
And the family, quite understandably, they scatter. They sprint away, terrified that this animal, which has just spent the last few minutes locked in a tiny, stressful box, is going to come out looking for blood.
They fully expect a retaliatory attack.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is a classic case of projecting human emotion onto an animal.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we assume because we'd be furious about being locked in a trunk, the bear must be furious too.
Wait, hold on, though. We've all seen videos of elephants seemingly seeking revenge or crows holding grudges against specific people who wronged them.
Sure.
Why is a bear's threat response so different here? Why wouldn't it come out swinging?
It's all about the biology of the immediate threat response versus long-term memory.
Okay.
We tend to think of stress or anger as something that lingers, right? Like a feeling you hold onto and direct at a specific target.
Right, like if someone cuts you off in traffic, you stay mad for an hour.
Exactly. But for a bear in a claustrophobic panic, the threat wasn't the humans outside. The threat was solely the physical enclosure of the SUV.
Ah, I see.
So once the window was smashed and that enclosure was breached, the bear's perceived threat level dropped to zero almost instantaneously.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me. I compared this in my head to a patron at a restaurant throwing a massive violent tantrum. Like flipping tables, ripping up the menu, screaming at the top of their lungs. And then the second they step out the front doors onto the sidewalk, they just straighten their tie, casually check their watch, and stroll down the street as if absolutely nothing happened.
That's a great analogy because it perfectly highlights the shift in biological imperatives.
Yeah.
Once the bear is free, the imperative shifts from escape at all costs to simply conserve energy.
Because fighting takes work.
A massive amount of work.
Yeah.
Fighting or chasing humans takes caloric energy and carries a huge risk of injury. From the bear's perspective, the metal box is solved.
Right.
Time to move on and find food somewhere safer.
That makes total sense from an energy conservation standpoint. But I'm hung up on the fact that the bear got into the car without breaking a window in the first place.
Yeah, that's the wild part.
How does a 300-pound apex predator just materialize in a suburban driveway and slip inside a vehicle without anyone hearing or seeing it?
Well, this is where we have to look at the specialized biology of black bears, particularly in borderland areas like the Great Smoky Mountains. To understand how a bear gets into a car silently, you first have to understand the mechanics of how it detects the car.
We hear all the time that bears have a great sense of smell. But we aren't just talking about a fresh, hot pizza sitting on the dashboard with the windows rolled down, are we?
Not at all. The anatomy of a bear's nose is really staggering.
Yeah.
Their olfactory bulb, the part of the brain that processes smells, it's massive. It's at least 5 times larger than ours. And their nasal cavity is just packed with hundreds of millions of scent receptors. They can detect scent molecules in the air from miles away. We think of a car as a sealed environment, but it's not.
Right, there are vents.
Vents, seals, air exchanges constantly.
So what are they smelling, realistically?
Oh, they can smell a forgotten granola bar wrapper stuffed between the child seats.
No way.
Yeah, they can smell an empty soda can sitting in a cup holder, chapstick, hand sanitizer, or even just a few dropped French fries sitting on the floor mats from 3 days ago.
So it doesn't even have to be real food.
Exactly. To a bear, your car isn't a vehicle. It's a giant metal lunchbox radiating a beacon of scent.
Okay, so the bear smells a tiny trace of a French fry. It approaches the vehicle, but it doesn't smash the glass to get the food. The reports explicitly state that bears in this region let themselves in.
They do.
Are you telling me a bear knows how to operate a modern car door handle?
Yes. It's a learned behavior, and it's heavily documented by wildlife officials.
That's incredible.
Bears have the dexterity to hook a claw behind an exterior pull handle, and they've learned that applying backward pressure makes the door yield.
And once it climbs into the back seat to investigate the French fries, the vehicle's suspension shifts. Or maybe the bear simply bumps the heavy door with its hindquarters, and the latch clicks shut.
Trapped.
Trapped. But this raises a huge contradiction in my mind.
What's that?
If bears are intelligent enough to learn how to walk up to a car, hook their paw behind an exterior handle, and pull it open, why on earth can't they figure out how to open it from the inside to get out?
Ah.
Because the interior handle is sitting right there on the door panel.
Well, if we connect this to the broader science of animal intelligence, the contradiction disappears. We often confuse a learned physical action with cognitive comprehension.
Meaning they know how to perform the specific motion, but they don't fundamentally understand why the motion works.
Exactly. A bear can easily mimic the physical motion of pulling an exterior handle because it's a simple, single-axis lever mechanism.
Okay.
You pull toward yourself, the door opens, it's operant conditioning. But they entirely lack the cognitive framework to understand the mechanical systems of a car's interior.
I see. Because an inside door handle isn't just a simple pull. It usually requires you to pull a lever inward while simultaneously pushing the heavy door outward.
Right.
It's a multi-step, compound mechanical puzzle.
And it's a puzzle designed specifically for human ergonomics. A bear doesn't look at an interior door panel and understand that a small plastic latch is connected via a hidden cable to a locking mechanism.
That makes sense.
In nature, if a bear is trapped in a cave or pinned by a fallen log, the biological solution is brute force. Dig, bite, or push.
So they just apply what they know.
Yes, they apply that exact same evolutionary logic to the inside of the SUV. They try to bite through the seats or push through the glass because in their world, a barrier is just something you break.
Which is terrifying when you realize that their brute force doesn't work against modern automotive engineering. A smashed window and a torn-up interior sounds like a terrible, expensive way to end a family vacation.
It does.
But looking at the biological realities we're discussing, that family's quick thinking with the wooden log actually averted a nightmare.
It really did, because this exact scenario has played out many times before, and it rarely ends with a calm bear simply walking back into the woods.
Yeah, the incident data details a really grim precedent from June of 2022, also in Tennessee.
Yeah, that was a sad one.
Another black bear got into an unlocked vehicle searching for food. It bumped the door shut, just like this one did, and couldn't escape. But this time, nobody was renting the cabin.
Right.
Nobody was around to notice the door was shut or to hear the muffled sounds of panic.
And this is where the physics of human engineering becomes actively lethal to wildlife.
The reports state the temperatures inside that parked car climbed above 60 degrees Celsius.
Wow.
For those of us using Fahrenheit, that is north of 140 degrees.
Just unimaginably hot.
And that extreme heat proved fatal for the bear. So what does this all mean? How does a car get that hot that fast?
Yeah.
We tend to think of our cars as these tough, protective metal fortresses that shield us from the elements.
Well, when the engine is off and the windows are rolled up, a car isn't a fortress. It's a highly efficient thermal death trap.
Yeah.
It comes down to the physics of the greenhouse effect. Shortwave solar radiation from the sun easily passes through the transparent glass of the car windows.
Right, the visible light just shines right in.
Exactly. But once inside, that shortwave radiation hits the solid interior surfaces, the dark dashboard, the steering wheel, the black leather seats.
And those get incredibly hot to the touch.
Yes, because those objects absorb the energy and heat up. They then radiate that heat back out, but they radiate it as long-wave infrared heat.
And long-wave infrared can't pass back out through the glass.
Correct. The glass acts as an impenetrable barrier to the trapped heat. Because the windows are closed, there's no convection, no airflow to carry the heat away.
It just builds.
The ambient temperature inside the cabin can rise 20 degrees in just 10 minutes and 40 degrees in an hour.
Now put a bear in that environment. We sweat to cool down. How does a black bear thermoregulate in 140-degree stagnant air?
Poorly. Bears don't have sweat glands across their bodies like humans do. They only have minor ones on their paw pads.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. They rely primarily on panting to expel heat, but panting only works if the air you are breathing in is cooler than your core body temperature.
Which it isn't in this case.
Right. When a bear is trapped in a 140-degree car, panting actually accelerates the intake of heat.
Not to mention they are wearing a thick black fur coat designed by evolution to retain body heat during freezing winters.
Exactly. The fur acts as a supreme insulator, trapping the ambient heat against their skin.
That's awful.
The bear enters a state of rapid hyperthermia. Their central nervous system begins to fail, leading to seizures, organ failure, and death, often within an incredibly short window of time.
When the Gatlinburg family smashed that window with a log, we framed it earlier as an act of property damage.
Right.
But looking at the physics and the biology of the 2022 incident, that wasn't just a desperate way to save their leather seats. It was a literal life-saving medical procedure for that animal.
It really was. And it forces us to examine how our casual behavior impacts the ecosystem.
Absolutely.
We park a car with a few snacks inside and think nothing of it. But we're inadvertently deploying unnatural, deadly traps into an environment where animals are simply following their biological imperative to forage.
Right. They don't know any better.
They aren't acting maliciously. They are trying to survive in a landscape that we have fundamentally altered with our technology.
Which leads us to what we actually need to do with all of this information. For anyone listening right now, maybe packing up their car for a weekend trip to a national park or just living in a suburb, wooded area, what is the actionable advice here?
The directives from wildlife officials are incredibly clear and entirely preventable.
Okay, let's hear them.
First and foremost, you must lock your vehicle doors every single time, especially in bear country.
Because an unlocked door is an invitation. If they pull the exterior handle and it doesn't yield, do they just move on?
In the vast majority of cases, yes. They are opportunistic foragers. If the energy expenditure of trying to break into a locked car outweighs the potential caloric reward of, a dropped French fry, they move along.
Okay, so step one, lock the doors. What else?
Secondly, you must remove all easily detectable food and strongly scented items.
Right.
We establish how powerful their olfactory bulb is. Do not leave coolers, snack bags, or empty fast food cups in your car. Clean your floor mats.
And you mentioned earlier non-food items, too.
Yes, even scented lip balms, lotions, or air fresheners can be enough to draw a bear out of the woods to investigate.
Never underestimate a hungry bear's ingenuity.
Yeah.
If you make it easy for them, they have the physical tools to get in.
They absolutely do.
I think the biggest shift in perspective for me is realizing that a careless snack wrapper left in the cup holder isn't just a bit of litter. You aren't just being messy. You are potentially setting a death trap for an animal.
It's a chain reaction. A forgotten bag of chips leads to a bear investigating. An unlocked door leads to a trapped animal. The trap leads to a panic destruction of property and potentially a fatal hyperthermic outcome for the bear.
Wow.
Breaking that chain at the very first link by keeping a clean, locked car is quite literally the most effective form of wildlife conservation you can practice on your vacation.
It really puts the responsibility back on us. But I want to leave our listeners with one final, slightly mind-bending thought to mull over.
Okay.
We talked about how these bears have actively learned to pull exterior car door handles to access our food. They've figured out the single-axis lever.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that this is a learned behavior that gets passed down, like a sort of urban foraging skill spreading through the bear population.
Yes, the adaptation is happening quite rapidly in these borderland areas between human settlements and natural habitats. Mothers teach it to their cubs.
So if bears are adapting to human tools this quickly, effectively passing down the knowledge of how our vehicle exteriors work, how long will it be before a trapped bear eventually figures out the compound puzzle of an interior door handle?
That's a scary thought.
Or accidentally presses the electronic unlock button and realizes what it does? Are we inadvertently accelerating the evolution of bear intelligence just by leaving our snacks in the back seat?
It makes you wonder.
It really does. Next time you park your car, maybe ask yourself, Are you just storing a bag of pretzels, or you're running a master class in puzzle solving for a 300-pound apex predator?
Okay, one question for you. How did a massive black bear manage to get inside a family's SUV in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, lock itself inside, and leave the family with no option but to smash a window to rescue it? Don't forget to comment it. Thanks.